speaker. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Amy Kennedy is a lead nursery inspector for MDARD, which of course government it stands for, Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development in Oakland County. She has a BS in biology and an MS in entomology, which is bugs. I did have to ask. In addition to her 9 years of experience as an MDARD nursery inspector, Amy spent 13 years in emerald ash borer education, which is a real bug, with MSU and the USDA Forest Service, and is an advanced master gardener. She's been an Oakland County resident and gardener for nearly 25 years. Amy, let's welcome Amy.
Hello. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. You heard about the entomology. I love bugs. I have lots of bug pictures for you. I hope you don't get grossed out. And the technological note, yes?
Could you double check and make sure you're not muted?
Yeah, I'm not muted. Yeah. I think I clicked it off. So yeah, as you can see, that I've done Zoom presentations before, and I've done in-person presentations before. This is my first time doing a combination of the two. So I've noticed a few pop-ups on my screen. I'm not sure, just bear with me, please. I'll try to minimize things if they pop up, but we're all learning here. We're still learning, even though it's been 2 years since COVID. I thought I'd start out with a little bit about me. Kay gave a great introduction. I've been born and raised in Michigan. I studied biology and forest entomology. I love trees. I love bugs. I'm sure my parents were like, what are you going to do with that? But I stumbled into a fabulous job at the Michigan Department of Agriculture right out of grad school, and was a pesticide inspector. And then I tagged along on some nursery inspections, and I thought, this is where I want to be. I want to be in tree farms and fields and perennial growers, and I just love plants and of course bugs. I took some time off while my kids were little, and it was right when emerald ash borer hit Metro Detroit, and so I was very fortunate to be able to keep working, for MSU and the Forest Service on emerald ash borer, because we had that bug in Metro Detroit, but it wasn't in East Lansing at the time, so MSU couldn't do research or outreach on it. So that kept me employed. And then I came back 4 years ago to MDARD. They added the ARD at the end, or the RD in the end, the rural development. And like Kay said, there's a alphabet soup of acronyms in government, but I'll try to explain some of them. I work for 3PM, we called it, Pesticide and Plant Pest Management Division. That's the PPPM up there. And the pesticides is in there. I told you I was a pesticide inspector. We regulate people who manufacture, sell, and apply pesticides and try to keep things safe, especially in, say, schools, nursing homes, susceptible populations. My coworkers specialize in that. I'm on the plant health side of our division. I'm a nursery inspector. I inspect nurseries and includes businesses that grow plants. And we only regulate hardy plants. We don't regulate, hanging baskets, house plants, bedding plants that can't survive the winter the way our law is written. It's only perennials, trees, and shrubs, and things that can, bulbs, things that can survive the winter. So it ranges from box stores to small landscapers to, giant places. Bordines has a giant facility in Grand Blanc, and Ray Wiegand's has a great, dozens of fields. So it really runs the gamut of what we inspect. Our division also, though, it has the 4 letters, but it's missing the part. We also do animal feed. My coworkers work on animal feed safety, fertilizer. We have fruit and vegetable inspectors, which grade, if you buy a bag of apples and it says grade, by size, they do inspections of production facilities. And as a nursery inspector, I don't just do nurseries, we also regulate seed. That's a lot of my winter work, and fertilizer as well. And industrial hemp has been a curious thing to get into the last 2 years. Walking fields and taking samples of something I never thought I'd do as a government agent has been very interesting. But every day is different, and that's why I love my job. We do Christmas trees as well, Christmas tree farms. So Christmas tree growers, if they want to sell locally, no worries. But if they want to sell their cut trees out of state, and other states don't have gypsy moth or pine shoot beetle, we inspect the trees before they go out too. So very diverse job. And as a regulator, I would be remiss if I did not mention nursery licenses and pesticide licenses. If you own a business or you know someone who owns a business, if you sell or grow hardy plants, like I said, trees, shrubs, or perennials, you need to have a license, a nursery license, a dealer license if you're just selling them or installing them, and a grower license if you're growing them or propagating them. And if you have if part of your business is applying pesticides, and that includes, mosquito repellents, it includes herbicides, weed killers, lawn fertilizer with the weed killer in it. You also need to have a certification, is a little green card you get just for yourself, and a business license is what your business would need. I have my cards over at the table. If you have any questions about that, they're both kind of they're not complicated topics, but I know some people wonder, do I need it or not? It's what I do for a living. I can help explain it to you, or see if you fall under either of those categories. And the last thing I want to go over is the alphabet soup I mentioned. We're MDARD. We cooperate with the DNR and with Eagle. So DNR is the Department of Natural Resources, and they cover all of our natural resources, our forests, our fish, our wildlife, deer hunting and things like that. But if the DNR is worried about forest pests, they do not regulate commodities. That's what our department does. The Department of Agriculture, we regulate businesses, commodities, the movement of commodities in and out of the state, in and out of the country. So if they're worried about forest pests coming in, say on nursery stock or on seeds or whatever, they really have no ability to, stop that. So that's where we come in, and we have quarantine set up, and that's what I do as part of my job. And Eagle regulates our waterways and also our air. But in our waterways, there are lots of invasive species, from crayfish to fish to, you heard of zebra mussels and quagga mussels, plants, invasive weeds and Phragmites, purple loosestrife, and all sorts of floaters that are terrible. And same thing, the way their agency is set up, they don't regulate places that sell plants, and that's what we do. So we work very closely with both DNR and Eagle. We have like a trifecta, and we help set up, I'll talk about the invasive species watch list. They help determine what the most important worries are. And then we, as plant regulators, if I go to a pet store, I make sure that the plants they're selling do not include anything on our watch list. And same with every nursery I go to, every box store I go to. So quick review of invasive species. It's one that's not native, but and whose introduction causes harm or may cause harm to our economy, environment, or human health. And I have two pictures up here to kind of demonstrate what is or isn't invasive species. So someone had a beautiful Phalaenopsis orchid. That is not considered invasive species because although it is non-native, it is not likely to get loose in our gardens, in our forests, in our waterways. So just because it's not native does not mean it's invasive or bad. And on the other hand, there's poison ivy there. And you might think poison ivy, that's definitely an invasive species. It is actually native to Eastern North America. So just because a plant is harmful, or you think it causes harm, that also doesn't make it invasive as well. It's considered invasive species if it's both non-native and harmful in some way. So we've created, sorry, usually pop-up's gonna drive me crazy. A watch list, like I said, with the DNR and with Eagle. I forgot to mention, Eagle used to be called the DEQ. I know a lot of people haven't heard of Eagle before. It's the Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. So DEQ, they cover the water and the air. We work together to create a watch list. And when I do my work, I look for the things highlighted in blue. I'm always looking for plant diseases. I don't look so much for animal diseases, except when I'm doing animal feed inspections. I'm always looking for insects because I love the bugs. And I'm looking for plants as well. I'm looking for weeds, Phragmites and purple loosestrife. Often, in field stock, they can kind of creep in from the edges and get into root balls. Black swallowwort I've seen, Japanese knotweed sometimes sneaks in. So I'm always on the lookout for invasive weeds as well. And I highlighted in yellow two of the bugs. So there's a million invasive species I could talk about, but I chose two today. And if I have time, I'll get to a third that I thought would be really appropriate to Oakland County. And the first is the spotted lanternfly, and the second is the Asian longhorn beetle. And our goals, I don't need to read all of them. We want to prevent new introductions. We want to limit the spread when invasive species get here. We want to have a plan for early detection and response. And when invasive species are here, we want to be able to manage and control them and keep them at a reasonable level. And I can demonstrate with the spotted lanternfly how we're doing all of these steps, and again, how we work with DNR and Eagle. So the first bug is the spotted lanternfly, which is just a gorgeous little critter. Absolutely gorgeous. Here's a little summary about it. If you have not heard or read in the news, this has not been found in Michigan before, but it was in August of this year. and it's very close to us. It's in Pontiac. It's in the city of Pontiac. And my thought was, I haven't been to one of your meetings. I'm not sure how interactive they are, but I was thinking if I could go through the slides on spotted lanternfly and then open up for questions, because I might cover most of the questions you might have, if that's okay with you guys. Because I'll go over and just biology of the insect and how to look for it, but also what we've done and what we've seen and been doing in Pontiac as well. So this bug is native to Asia. It was first found in the US 2014, so it's not even been 10 years. It has since spread to 14 states. Like most invasive species, it is spread mostly by human movement. It's not that this bug is a great flyer, but you'll see, it moves, people are moving it around. There's also been introductions in Korea and Japan, and those were actually helpful because the researchers there were able to, give us some tips on how to control it. Here is a map. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, that's covering the top. The blue counties are counties where there's been a detection. There are little tiny purple dots, which you probably cannot see, and those are individual finds of spotted lanternfly, but you can see from starting in, I'm not sure if my mouse will show on the screen, it's kind of hard to see. Starting in the Philadelphia area in 2014, you can see just how far it has spread, and there's no way an insect could have spread that far just on its own. These guys are not good flyers. And the first and only detection in Michigan is in Oakland County. I think Ohio has one more detection down south. I heard, or Indiana. Indiana's one somewhat near Chicago. I just heard last week. So identification. I'm going to start with the life cycle. You might say, oh, I'm not in biology class. I don't want to learn the life cycle. But bugs are really different in every stage of their life cycle. So you need to recognize all of the stages in order to recognize this insect. These are pictures. I have great photos coming up soon, but I just want to go over the cycle itself. There's eggs. Been laying right now, and they'll be on the trees or wherever they're laid until June-ish, May or June. When they first hatch, they're called nymphs, and they're little tiny black guys with white polka dots. They're very jumpy. They're very fast. They're very bouncy, and I've heard them described as they look like ticks almost, or maybe little flea beetles. When they get bigger, there are 3 instars or 3 stages, and then they turn into this 4th instar is red with the white polka dots. And then in August-ish around here, we notice in early September, they turn into adults. And they're just hanging around until they lay eggs, and the cycle continues again. So again, here are some live pictures of what each of the stages look like. Egg mass. Beautiful 1st through 3rd instar nymph is black with white polka dots. Again, they're all very bouncy. Even the adults, you try to grab one and they just spring, they bounce away. The little ones will skitter to the other side of the tree or the branch, wherever they are. They're very jittery little critters. I've seen a lot of pictures which have the spotted lanternfly, this letter E with the wings spread out. Their underwings are bright red, and it's very distinctive. But as you'll see from my pictures, that's not how they walk around. So I don't like to show those pictures because that's not what you're going to see if you were to see this bug. You'll see it with its wings nicely folded behind it if you see an adult. So here's the first. I forgot I have samples too. The one in the vial is one that I collected in August. The other one was given to me from someone who went to Pennsylvania. Spotted lanternflies they're very, I don't want to call them social critters, but they like to congregate. They like to aggregate. They like to hang out together. If they find a tree they really like, it's kind of like, as gardeners, you know about Japanese beetle. If they find your one rose, then they all go to that rose. You might have a rose the other side of the yard that doesn't get touched, but when they find a plant they like, they just like to hang out on it. And spotted lanternfly is very similar. It's rare to see just one. You tend to see a whole bunch of them when you see just one. Here's the 4th instar I was talking about. It starts to get the red body to it. And again, very bouncy. And they're just feeding the whole time. I'll go into their feeding in a minute here. And there's an adult, again, just gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. And the adults, like I said, all stages, they like to, even the eggs, I'll show you egg masses. For some reason, they just really like, I hate to say social, because they're not social like ants or like bees, but they just like to hang out together. They tend to be in big clusters. So imagine all these little tiny wounds in this poor maple tree from all of the feeding. So next there's some pictures of the egg masses. If you're familiar, the name has been changed to spongy moth, but maybe I'm sure you're all familiar with gypsy moth and how they lay their eggs on anything, on RVs, on tires, on rocks, on the side of your shed. They'll lay their eggs anywhere. Spotted lanternfly is just the same, unfortunately. Anything that's a solid surface, they'll lay their eggs. They're laid kind of in kind of vertical rows, and they cover them up with a waxy covering. It starts out white, but it switches really fast to a mud or putty color. And there's 30 to 50 eggs per egg mass. And you can see the picture on the right where the hand is. All of those little bumps, I'm sure it's hard to see in there. Those are all egg masses. They'll lay them right on top of each other, right next to each other, right on top of each other. Again, they're very they tend to aggregate. And there is an adult on that tree laying an egg right now. Like, why they don't go the other side, I just don't understand. But they like what I've seen in Pontiac on the underside of branches. They like the underside of branches. They like protected areas, kind of like spongy moth. But they coat all over. Like, why don't they just go the other side of the tree? I don't understand. They like metal. They seem to like rusty metal a lot. This has been we think a lot of the spread has been via the railways. Think of rail cars, rusty cars, semi trucks that carry the rail cars in the back. Here's a fence post, rusty fence post. They don't care that it's not a tree. They just lay their eggs all in. And that's not one egg. Those are egg mass. Those are just, insect kept laying and laying and laying and laying and laying. Here are some pictures from Pennsylvania. It doesn't need to be rusty. Here's a light bulb with an egg mass on it. Patio cushions, you can see them on it. It was laying down. They laid on the bottom. Camp chairs, the underside of a deck planter, a tire that was flipped over. So this is really how we think it's spreading. It's just human movement, accidental movement. Pennsylvania did a fabulous job. They have quite a quarantine. They made everyone, even movers. If you were going to move, your house, you were not allowed to move your grill, your car, your patio furniture, anything until it was inspected. But it is just, things sneak out, or people think, oh, I'm going to give it to my aunt. And anyway, it's gotten all around, as you saw from that first map. There are quite a few lookalikes to a spotted lanternfly egg mass. The spongy moth, we used to call it gypsy moth, is a little furrier. It's like the color of a golden retriever, whereas spotted lanternfly is more like gray, mud color. There are a lot of lichens that look a lot like it. And when I'm doing nursery inspectors, I did a tree farm yesterday, and I see lichens, and it just stops me in my tracks, and I have to go up to the trunk and just be sure. Even though I was nowhere near Pontiac yesterday, I still want to be sure. And then potter wasps, I don't see a lot of those egg masses, but they do have the same kind of consistency, kind of a mud, texture to it. I'll tell you about reporting in the future, or coming up soon, and we really encourage people to include a photograph, because we're getting very good at identifying it, and I would rather look at 100 photos of lichens than miss the one of an actual egg mass. So please, if you think you see it, take a photo. I'll go over the feeding damage. This is the underside of a spotted lanternfly. You can see, if I move there, the piercing, sucking mouth part is tucked underneath it. It's just a long stylus. We don't think they actually are sucking the sap out of the plants. We think it's relying on the pressure within a plant, like a maple tree. If you damage it in February and on a warm day, it'll start dripping sap. There's just pressure within a plant. So we think it's just sitting there, and it just taps in like an IV, and it just lets the sugar water go through it. Well, the sugar water in a tree, as you know, from maple sap to maple syrup, it's not very concentrated or very sweet. So they need a large quantity of it to get the nutrients they need. And that large quantity has to go somewhere. So it goes out the other end, as we call it honeydew, but it's kind of insect pee or insect excrement. And that is really where the nuisance comes in for us as urban gardeners and urban foresters. Because if you have anything underneath a tree, whether it be a car, patio furniture, kids' toys, grass, plants, anything, it's going to be covered by this honeydew. And after the honeydew comes black sooty mold. And along with the honeydew comes wasps and fall. So that's really where the nuisance comes with this pest. It's damaging trees, it's creating lots of little holes and wounds, it's stressing them out, but it's also going to be a huge nuisance. And here's some of the pictures, sooty mold. I've seen whole backyards that look like there was a Halloween decoration, just black with the sooty mold. So it's the tops of the leaves, everything just covers in black. Here's someone's porch steps. They power wash the first step, so you could really see the difference between the second step. So if you have, they like maple trees, I'll go over what trees they like. Or if you have maple trees over your deck or patio, this is how dark and black it could look if the population were to get very, very high. So based on our understanding, it doesn't seem that the spotted lanternfly is really killing trees or plants, but it is seriously stressing them. So it's very similar to spongy moth or gypsy moth. You know, it might defoliate an oak tree, but it doesn't kill the tree. It does come back, but it really stresses them out. And year after year, this, could pose a problem. The only plants that has been observed to kill is tree of heaven, which I'll go over. Small tree saplings, which of course I'm worried about as a nursery inspector because I have a lot of tree farms and they put a lot of money into these small trees, but they're very susceptible their first few years. And grapevines, they can kill grapes. They also really like hops, which we grow a lot of in Michigan. I'll just explain the plant stressor. So it just makes them more susceptible to, if we have a really cold winter, if we have a really hot, dry summer, if there are diseases in the area, it just makes the plants or trees more susceptible to all of those other problems. So here's a tree trunk with just covered in spotted lanternfly adults feeding on it. So imagine how weak that tree is going to be with all of those little tiny wounds in it. It really prefers tree of heaven. I have some slides about that tree. It's a weed tree. It's not one that's cultivated or sold, but it pops up all over the place. It likes disturbed areas. It loves grape, wild grape, and cultivated grape. So the west side of the state is very concerned. Maples. We're seeing a lot in red maples, black walnuts, birch, willow, sumac, like I said, hops, a lot of our stone fruits, cherries, apples, it likes apple trees. So pretty much everything we have in Michigan. There's over 70 species that they will feed on, but their preferred are grapes and tree of heaven. So there's a grapevine. Would you want to buy those grapes if they had honeydew all over them? Would you want to have wine made from grapes covered in black sooty mold? No. So it's really, our grape industry is very, very concerned about this pest and what it might mean. And if you have the time, I encourage you to Google. I didn't want to put the video in here, but you can see them like squirting out the honeydew. There's ones in grapes and it just like, doop, doop, it just looks like shooting all over the place. I've been under it before. It's true. So as far as agricultural commodities, grapes are the only concern. Management. How can we manage this? I like to show this slide when I talk to arborists because the very last step is to apply insecticides. I think a lot of people want to jump to that first, but it's really not the best first step. Stop the spread, look for the egg masses before they hatch. That's the best way to control them. I'll show you some sticky bands and traps. Removing tree of heaven could be effective because it is their favorite tree. If you remove, a bug's favorite food, then that's a way to minimize it in your yard. Applying insecticides is last because they're just so gregarious and they're everywhere. Think about pollinators, think about, non-harmful insects that you could be harming. Think about your kids, think about pets, think about, it's really should be the last resort to apply insecticides. So here's an example of a sticky tape or sticky band. I think here in Michigan, we'll use this more for surveying than for control, but they do kind of like spongy moth caterpillars travel up and down the trunks of trees. If you've ever seen burlap on trees, that's one way to try to catch them. This spotted lanternflies do the same. They go up and down a tree every day. So if you put a sticky band on, that's one way to catch them, or at least it could be a survey tool. And here's info about the tree of heaven. This is their favorite tree. And we could use it both as a survey tool and as a management tool. It looks kind of like a sumac. I have some pictures of its leaves, very, very long leaves with lots of leaflets. It has seeds. The brown things are the clumps of their seeds or samaras. They look a lot like box elder seeds. They hold onto their seeds all winter long. The trunk looks to me like cantaloupe skin. So it's a pretty distinctive tree, but sumac is probably the one it looks closest to, but spotted lanternfly does not feed on sumac. It only feeds on tree of heaven. So you can see a yardstick in the bottom. That's how long a single leaf can be with all the little leaflets. And it's a sumac leaf is serrated. All the edges are jagged like a bread knife, but a tree of heaven has smooth edges, except for the base of each leaf has two little knobs on it. And another distinctive thing is this tree smells like peanut butter. Some people say rotten peanut butter, but I think it smells like delicious peanut butter. If you even like brush up against the stems or, you don't really have to crush it. You just fold a leaf or something and it just peanut butter everywhere. So I encourage you to be familiar with this tree because I really wasn't before learning about spotted lanternfly. Now I can see it everywhere. Oh, there it is. The idea of using tree of heaven as a trap tree is if you're in an area where there are a lot of trees of heaven, kill or cut down, herbicide the female trees. Tree of heaven is dioecious, which means they're male trees and female trees. So cut down the female trees so they're not producing any more seeds. Keep a handful of male trees, treat them with systemic insecticide, and then that will attract the spotted lanternfly to the only existing trees there. And systemic insecticide only kills what's feeding on it. And there's not a lot of native insects or even birds or anything that feeds on tree of heaven. It's a, like I said, a weed tree, an invasive tree. So it really only you're not worried about caterpillars, you're not worried about butterflies, you're not worried about bees, moths, anything, feeding on tree of heaven, as long as you're not doing this during their bloom time, obviously. But if you wait till later, that's an effective way of, that's the only time I think insecticide would be a really great choice. Now I'll go into our state response. Starting back in 2020, we started seeing dead spotted lanternfly adults in Michigan. They were warehouse type places. They were in pallets, wrapped up. They were in boxes. So these are some in 2020. We found more in 2021. In 2022, there was I think it was the greenhouse or some sort of green industry, and they had bought, forget if it was like peat moss or some sort of potting material, and it was wrapped up in plastic. And they took the plastic off, and I think they found like 30 dead spotted lanternflies in there. They were from Pennsylvania area, so thankfully they were all dead. We did lots of surveys. We went back there many times. We educated everyone there. We did not find any egg masses. We don't think anything live snuck in. But anyway, we've known for this is the third summer we've known that they're sneaking in. We've only been finding dead ones until this year. But then August happened, and it was a Friday afternoon when I got the call. It's always a Friday afternoon. A citizen reported a picture. She was attending a seminar given by MSU on, I think this is for master gardener, some sort of a landscaper, a nursery garden too. I forget what the seminar was. And she came up and showed the presenter, the MSU person at the end, this looks like what you're showing me. And he was like, yes, it does. So the next day, it trickled through all the right people and it got back to me. I cover Oakland County and the report was in Oakland County and Pontiac. So I came out the next day and I responded to it and I didn't find anything. I looked all over the place. I was so disappointed. I love bugs. I was like, I'm going to find this guy. And it was not there. But it was such a credible report that we came back out a few days later, again, Friday, I think Tuesday, we came back out with a group of 14 people, USDA, DNR, MDARD, I forget, MSU people there. And we had a grid, we did a half-mile radius, and we found the population. And it was pretty close to where she had first, where she had taken the picture. We came back a few days later to do an even larger radius to see, literally knocking on doors of businesses and homes in Pontiac. Have you seen this? Handing out flyers. We only found a very, very concentrated small population. We sent out a press release. We activated Eyes in the Field reporting site. Remember, I talked about part of invasive species responses being ready for the, we knew for 3 years, this is probably coming to Michigan. We had a website ready to go. All someone had to do is click the button to turn it on, make it live. So we were ready to go to receive pictures and information and GPS coordinates so we could follow up on all reports of this. And ever since August, we've been very busy at the site. We've been surveying, obviously, for the insect itself and found it's a very concentrated population. For the tree of heaven, sorry, I did the abbreviation there. We did a survey of all the tree of heaven. We determined, I did drop a GPS point. Is this a male or female tree? How big is it? So we kind of knew if we were going to apply insecticide, how much would we need, because application rates are by the diameter of breast height. What else? We did all sorts of, whether we saw any spotted lanternfly on them or not. And then Oakland County did the treatments of systemic insecticide. It was after, obviously, everything was done blooming by August. There was no blooming there. Very targeted. And right now, traps are out there. USDA is handling the trapping. They're kind of like kiddie pools around the base of the trees that we treated. So if they were feeding on them, the idea is they would probably drop into these kiddie pools and we would know how effective it was. We'll be going out next month to do surveys for egg masses, and obviously we will destroy and scrape whatever we can, whatever's within reach. But these trees some of them are very large. So I'm not climbing a tree, but I'll get what I can. I just want to know we've had great cooperation. Like I said, we were ready for this. Invasive species response is what we do and what we're ready for. We worked great with DNR. The USDA has been really helpful because this is the first detection in Michigan. So my first one I found got sent up to USDA to confirm. I mean, there's no other insect that looks like it, but we still need official confirmation by USDA, and they're handling the trapping. MSU has been great, providing pesticide, insecticide recommendations and herbicide recommendations for people in the area who do want to treat it for it, because our agency cannot give pesticide recommendations, but Michigan State can. So they've been fabulous to work with. And Oakland County obviously has been wonderful to work with because they have certified applicators who can make these applications, and they had the funding available. They want to take care of it. We knew this is an insect we do not want to be widespread. So here are a few of my photos. The one on the left is the very first one I caught. I was so giddy. I was like a little kid. I was so excited, but yet I was so sad, but because I knew it was a bad guy, but I was honest. I was very excited. And that was probably one of the first. It was probably 50% adults, and then nymphs. In the center is one of those 4th instar nymphs, which is the red one. There were no black and white ones at that time. This was beginning of August 9th, I think. So they were all the red and then the adults. And there's a close-up of an adult on the right side. So to report suspect infestations, we really encourage citizens to report. The main reason is I am one person in Oakland County, and I am going to nurseries that sell, beautiful trees ready to be planted. I do not inspect the sides of parking lots. I do not inspect, the back of a box store, Home Depot. I'm looking at the tree, the plants in Home Depot. I'm not looking at the, and this tree of heaven tends to be in weedy type areas. It pops up, along fence rows, along the back of parking lots, along train tracks. So your guys' eyes are so absolutely critical to finding these. And the earlier we find it, the easier it is to try to eradicate something, and the cheaper it would be also. So if you see, it kind of tells you what to do. If you think you see egg masses, don't try to disturb it. Just take a picture and report it. If you see adults or immatures, they probably are done for the year, but there could be some adults hiding. You can try to collect them if you want, and report it. And we really encourage, highlighted in yellow, is our Eyes in the Field website for reporting, because if you just call, we don't know, like, I think I saw it, but I don't know for sure. But a photo is really, really helpful, because there are a lot of lookalikes, both for the egg masses and for the adults. So a photo we can really compare and know if we can come out and let's see, and take a look at it and see if there's any more, because like I said, we're really trying to protect our apple growers, grape growers, hop growers in the west side of the state. We want to keep it small. I don't know if eradication is possible, but just keeping it controlled, suppressed is really our goal at this point. So I'll open up to questions. Spotted lanternfly before I jump. Yes.
Is it easier to spot their egg masses on tree trunks after it has rained? So the trunk is.
I hadn't, since I've only seen old ones, I don't know. I can let you know in a month or so when we go out and see. I know they start off much darker, they start off bright white and then they fade to like a mud color, but then they get kind of a cracked appearance, as they kind of fade they dry out and crack over the winter. So in that case, yeah, it might be, if the tree trunk was darker, they might stand out a little bit more. No, I'll let you know in a month when I go back out there. Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's not known if they can complete their life cycle on it. Tree of Heaven seems to be, their favorite by far, but I've seen them on wild grapevines for sure. Yes.
Not specific to this creature, but is it best to take a picture and then text it to you, or how would you do that? So when you see something suspicious. Yeah, take a picture and send it to this website, Eyes in the Field. Feel free. I love my cards over there. I would not mind at all if you send me pictures. I love bugs. I'll take a look at it. But Eyes in the Field, we have ways to kind of figure out who, maybe your cottage up north, or you're visiting someone and you see it. We have inspectors in every county, that cover different counties. So different people might be called to come out and take a look. And so where you found it, location, and then you have to download that to your computer. It's a website, and it's a really easy form to fill out. It's like your name, your contact info.
upload a photo. Where were you? You could say, you know, the Meyer parking lot in Warren, you know, where did you see it? Location is critical because that's where, you know, that's how we're gonna, if I'm in Oakland County, but you found it in Livingston, I don't cover Livingston County, I would have to, you know, give it to my coworker. But if you do it on this website, then it's all divvied out automatically by the website. So, yes?
If I see an accidental location and photos, I feel compelled to do like going to a lab, right then and there. Is that appropriate?
For egg masses, I think it says, you know, don't disturb it, you know, I think we'd want to see, or maybe we would try to scrape it off ourselves, you know, to see, to be sure, because there are a lot of lookalikes. But yeah, if you've seen, I mean, spotted lanternfly has been in the news a lot, you know, New York's, I forget, Chuck Schumer, someone in New York is trying to get federal money for it. I mean, it's really a nuisance. But anyway, the go-to phrase is smash it. Just, you see it, smash it. Like, don't mess around. Whereas we're kind of on the early stage and we're like, if you see it, take a picture and then smash it. Because we want to, you know, and try to keep it if you can too. There are some lookalikes. But I can understand, yeah, if you're worried, I can see you're like, I don't want this to get worse.
Right. They covered Japanese beetles, not in soapy water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because that's that. I found that easier. I mean, at first I tried to just like pluck them, like say an aphid. Yeah, it looks like a little aphid. No, you can't do that. There's no way. So I would put a Ziploc bag kind of under, and I would just kind of like scare them, like tap the branch to get them to like fall into the bag. But sometimes they would just boing, you know, another direction. So I don't know if into soapy water, it would definitely be an effective way, but you'd have to know, I don't know. If it's a warm day and they're active, they're pretty bouncy. they're hard to predict. Yes.
We're talking about
No, because I've heard they'll live through the first frost or two. So I think there's still some probably out there laying eggs, you know, right now. Oh yeah, for sure. They'd be much slower. Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. Yeah. All inside, you know, they're cold-blooded, so they're very dependent on the temperature. They would still be alive, I would think. Even now there could be some alive in Pontiac right now. I haven't been out to the site in about a month or so to compare, you know, their bounciness, but they would definitely be slower because yeah. That would be the day to go out there with go out early in the morning, maybe with your jar of soapy water. I don't know if I'm supposed to say. It's by a wastewater treatment. It's by a wastewater treatment plant. Oh, and I forget if I mentioned before, I think I had up there, part of our response, we've been working strong. There are several nurseries in Pontiac. I'm sure you can all think of plenty of them. And there's box stores and there's landscapers. We have contacted every single one of them. We've done site visits, we've done education. There's some that want to, obviously you want to stay in bed. You're like, okay, we signed them up for what's called a compliance agreement. They went through a training course to identify it. They're inspecting every single tree and shrub that leaves their property before it goes, just in case it is in their nursery, you know, it does get blown in a windstorm or something. So we've been working very closely, you know, with all the businesses, you know, from the small ones up to the big wholesalers, to the box stores, to mom and pop shops. So anything else? And move on to another bug. I'm like, oh, I'm getting short on time already. Asian longhorn beetle, another gorgeous bug. This one is not in Michigan, but if we were to find it in Michigan, my guess would be it would be in Metro Detroit. So that's why I want to highlight it to you guys, because you are my helpful eyes. We think it arrived from Asia on solid wood packing material, like crates. It could definitely be moved in firewood. It could definitely affect our lumber industry, our nursery industry, and tourism. This is almost, I would say, worse than the emerald ash borer. And I'll explain why in a couple of pictures. It's another wood-boring insect. It's quite large. It's beautiful. We have a pine sawyer beetle, a native beetle that looks very similar to this. But it's in pine trees, dead pine trees. It's not in live maple trees. But again, take a pic. If you think you see this, take a picture. I'll look at 100 pictures of the pine Sawyer beetle, and as opposed to missing one picture of this guy. Kind of like the emerald ash borer, you're not going to see the insect. You're going to see more of the damage than you are going to see the insect. The larva is just a nondescript grub. I mean, it's very, very big. The adult is very, very showy, but how many times did you see an emerald ash borer just walking around? I mean, I did, but I was looking for it, but I didn't. I saw the dead trees more. I saw the sprouting, the woodpecker holes. You saw the signs more than you did the actual insect. So I wanted to show you pictures of how beautiful this bug is. I want to really show you the signs to look for if you think you might have it. It loves maple trees, which is so sad. We've already lost almost all of our ashes, and we really cannot afford to lose our maple trees in Michigan. But I think this has a host list of over 50 species in the United States. This is a busy map. All the yellow are native forests, native maple forests. So where maple trees are. And you see in Michigan, the UP chock full of maples. You know, there's tons of maples around here, and I don't even see a lot of it on the map here. But all the dots are where Asian longhorn beetle has been detected in the United States. So first it was New York City, and they eradicated it. And then it was downtown Chicago, and they eradicated it. Then New Jersey eradicated, Toronto eradicated, but then found again. Massachusetts, I think they're still working on that one. Ohio, they're still working on it. 11 years later, it's not considered eradicated. It's in Southern Ohio, a rural area. And not on this map, but South Carolina it's been found in South Carolina. And all of these little dots are all individual infestations that are not known to be related to each other. So this is just stuff from Asia, wood packing material, all the things we order from Asia. These are individuals situations. The only one that could be connected is a South Carolina one and Ohio. The insects are genetically identical or very similar, but we don't know if it's possible that they came from the same place, say in China, and then it came to South Carolina, or it could have been from Ohio to South Carolina. We don't know because the bugs won't tell us. But it's just kind of scary to think all of these are separate introductions from Asia. These are not connected. These are separate. So like I said, what you really want to look for are the signs of the insect, not the insect itself, because even though it's showy, it's just not a very, unlike spotted lanternflies, they're kind of shy little guys. They spend a lot of their time inside of the wood of the tree, and they have to eat a lot of wood to get as large as they do. So what you want to look for is frass. Frass is a nice word for insect poop. They eat a lot of wood, and so they poop out a lot of wood, and it looks just like sawdust. So when I'm doing inspections, I'm always looking for frass in the crooks of the tree, at the base of the tree. I'm definitely looking for the exit holes. I don't believe there's another insect in Michigan that has such large exit holes, and definitely not one that attacks live trees. This bug likes live, healthy trees. It does not like dead and dying trees, live, healthy maple trees. You can stick a pencil in it. And unlike emerald ash borer, which just fed right under the bark, right underneath the bark, this one goes deep into the wood. So you can stick a pencil right in, as you can see from that picture. Oh, and I have some samples. The galleries I told you about, you'll see in the wood sample going around, they tend to be packed with frass. They aren't always, sometimes they push it out of the exit holes, but sometimes it's just absolutely full. And again, if it's a dying tree, this is I see galleries all the time, but if it's an otherwise healthy maple tree or horse chestnut tree, this is something to be concerned about. Branch breakage is a big one. I always tell my arborists this, because they're the ones taking down, if a branch were to fall off, they do not make it convenient for us entomologists. They like to target high up on a tree, on a maple tree. They love red maples in Ohio. That's where I've learned the most about it. They go high up in a tree. So it's very, very hard for us to see from the ground, even with binoculars. But if the branch were to break up there after a windstorm and it were to fall, look for these galleries. Look for excessive branch breakage. Look for, that's what I tell my arborists all the time. When you're taking down dead branches or trees, look for this. And if you see a suspect, you can call our 1-800 number, report it to Invasive Species Network, or email or give me a call. Like I said, I'll look at pictures of bugs all day long. I don't mind. Any questions about Asian longhorn beetle? Yes.
Why is the reporting process different?
We set up a separate one just for spotted lanternfly, the eyes in the field. But any of the ways are acceptable. We will get it to the right person, but we made one specific for spotted lanternfly, anticipating, we knew it was coming. We knew it was on its way. Great question though. Again, if you call anyone, if you call me, I'll get you the right person. You call their 1-800 number, they'll get you to me. You know, whoever the right person is, we do all work together. You call DNR, they'll get you to me. You know, the spotted lanternfly was reported to MSU to just a person giving a presentation, and they got to me. So we'll get it to the right person. Don't worry. Again, I know we're short on time. I snuck in a third pest, if you guys don't mind. This news release came out yesterday. Beech leaf disease. Very, very sad. It is not caused by an insect, which makes it a little bit boring in my mind. It's caused by a nematode, but it's very, very harmful to American beech trees. A microscopic nematode goes into the leaf buds. It causes damage to leaf tissue. The next year, it causes the striations in between the veins. It should be just a regular green leaf, but you see the darkening, the thickening. Then they get contorted, they get twisted. The buds, if the populations are high enough, the buds will die, the twigs will die. It just really, really weakens the trees. Mature trees can die within 6 to 10 years. Saplings, they say 2 to 5 years. So American beeches are a very important part of our forest in Michigan, and they're very susceptible to this. So here's a map. It was first found in Ohio in 2012. We think this is moving via birds is our best guess. It's not a very well-known, we call it beech leaf disease. We're not sure if the nematode is causing the problems or if the nematode is carrying a disease that's causing these problems. The microbiologists are trying to sort it out, but we're, as a biologist, I want to know, how is it spreading and how can we stop it? But you see from this map, it was coming from the Ohio side, from the south, and it was coming from the Ontario side. So we kind of knew it was just a matter of time before we got it as well. We've done surveys of beech trees. Every nursery I go to, I look at the beech trees, I look at the leaves, I look at the buds. I've been searching for this, have not found it, knock on wood. But it was first reported in July in St. Clair County near Port Huron in a native stand of American beech, just on one's woodlot, sadly. And then later it's been found in Troy, I think Oakland and Wayne County. I think it says in that, oh, it's not on the map yet because the press release just came out yesterday from the DNR, but Oakland and Wayne County, multiple sites in both counties, unfortunately. So it's American beech. We're not moving American beech nursery stock. It's not a very common tree to be sold. And I'm not finding it in European beeches either. So my guess is it's birds are moving it. Just they land on a branch and it gets picked up on their feet and they go to the next one, or maybe they're ingesting it. Maybe it's in an insect, we just don't know. But that spread is not, I mean, for 10 years, that's too much spread for nematodes only really move in soil and water. So for it to spread this far in native forests that fast is not what we expect. So here's a few more pictures of it. In the fall, I just want to show these. I mean, I mainly saw it in the summer with the green leaves and the really dark in between the veins. And just they could look kind of twisted and contorted, and just the trees looked unhealthy. They looked, the crown was very sparse, very thin. But here's some in the fall and winter, you can even see it too. In that brown one, you can see just how dark it is there. And there are some mites, there are some things that can cause similar to this. But again, if you could take a picture or take a sample, we can compare it. We can go out and take a look. We have a plant pathology lab within my division, and they can do a PCR test for the nematode to find it. And this number, sorry for you in the back, it's a whole nother reporting number because the DNR is handling this. We don't think it's moving via nursery stock. So the DNR, which I told you handles our forest, is handling this pest. But again, grab my card, give me a call. I'll get you the right person, or I'll come out and take a look. I'll take pictures. I can take a sample. Our lab can test for it as well as DNR's lab. So I'm sorry, there's different ways, but that's just which group is handling each one. Okay, I'm closing up, sorry. Don't move firewood. It's a mantra we've been repeating for decades. It's how emerald ash borer got moved around. It's how spongy moth / gypsy moth got moved around. And now everything I already talked about can be moved on firewood. Spotted lanternfly, think of those egg masses. Asian longhorn beetle. Think about a tree dies and you chop it up. Oh, I'll bring it to Tennessee on my trip. You just moved whatever pests were in there if you didn't burn it all. Beech leaf disease I mentioned. It could be on the bark. We're not sure. There's a disease called beech bark disease. Oak wilt could be moved in firewood, spongy moth. So do not move firewood. Buy it where you burn it. I know it's more expensive, but our state parks are really going towards they're not allowing it. And even some of their national parks don't allow people to bring in firewood. The cost of, the cost of invasive species in forests. And again, I know I included, these aren't necessarily forest pests, but they're, an urban forest is a forest. How expensive is it to pull a tree out of your backyard? Think of the aesthetic, now you don't have shade. Think about camping. I will not camp in a place where there's no trees. After Emerald Ash Borer, all of my favorite campgrounds look like parking lots. It was so sad. Trees are very, very important. So invasive species are really important to us and affects more than you think of. It affects timber industry, property values, utilities, And the invasion curve, I mentioned, it's really important to have public awareness to try to find invasive species very early. If you don't find them, say Emerald Ash Borer was probably here a long time before we found it, and we really didn't have a chance of containing it. But for spotted lanternfly, we found it down here in the bottom. It's like less than a 5-acre site. It's manageable. It's owned by one property owner who's very willing to control it. It's not going to be crazy expensive versus if we had found it, in a 100-acre site and thousands of different property owners, it would have been much harder to control. And I'll close. I was just at a meeting last week, a horticultural inspector society meeting, and they had these little things to stand up, and I thought that they were so cute. So there's the 2 bugs I talked about today. But on the table over there, I do a lot of work. We mainly work for forest invasives. We have hemlock woolly adelgid and balsam woolly adelgid are very important to us. We look for oak wilt. We're looking for sudden oak death. I have a lot of brochures over there. Feel free to take what you want. I have some tattoos of the spotted lanternfly. If you like little bug tattoos, or if you have kids or grandkids, feel free to help yourself to some. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And some of the videos, I've signed up, they're very informative. Like I said, our agency covers animals. We have the veterinary industry. It covers like mosquito-borne diseases. If you have pets, it's interesting. If you do the food industry, they handle all food producers, people who make hummus and salads, and meat producers, dairy, we do dairy. Agriculture in Michigan is really fascinating. So I encourage you to follow any of those. And we did a bunch of videos actually for spotted lanternfly. I think I'm in one of them. I tried to bow out, but I couldn't, but it's on YouTube. I made some videos about spotted lanternfly just so news companies would have something to use, instead of finding something from Pennsylvania. So yes.
Do you see that a lot of the news in different places show the picture with red ink in there more because it's more like colorful?
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah. It is very striking. When you see but I've spent days and weeks in Pontiac looking at them, and they just don't stand around with their wings out. They're always back. So they show that picture because it is so striking and it's very distinctive. But I tried to minimize that in my presentation, so you're not looking for a butterfly looking critter, because that's not how they just stand around. With the wings closed. Yeah, for sure. Yes. We have inspectors. We have, the wood is supposed to be heat treated, or kiln dried or heat treated, but people are always trying to make exceptions, or always trying to skirt, bark has not been allowed on dunnage or crates or pallets for a long time, but I've split open plenty of pallets where you can see a little bit of bark. And the underside, the cut side is, the part they show you, but the underside might have a bit of bark. And the bark is where things like Emerald Ash Borer might hide. With like Asian longhorn beetle, it burrows so deep in, to the wood, even by scraping the bark off, you're not eliminating, the chance of it moving. So we have, the regulations, it just things sneak by. Like the Pennsylvania had their quarantine, and someone didn't call, to get the inspection, possibly, or maybe, just on a train, it got loaded onto a train before it got inspected. There's just things sneak around. But yeah, USDA is really in charge, Customs and Border Patrol, and the USDA APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. They handle things on a federal level that come in. And we look at plants, even from Canada, if it's imported. I look at bulbs a lot in the spring and in the fall that are imported from the Netherlands. And it's unlikely that these insects would be on them, but I mean, that's why we look for them. We're looking for things that could come from other countries as well. Good question. Yes?
The Japanese maple tree as well?
I don't know. They usually don't get that big. That, their trunk isn't that big. Asian longhorn beetle likes a bit. I think their minimum is probably a 3 or 4 inch diameter tree that they can complete their life cycle in. That isn't to say they won't attack it, lay eggs, and try to eat it, but Japanese maples don't tend to be as big. But it's the same. It's the same genus, so I'm pretty sure they would be susceptible. And it does not appear to be a picky bug. They have like 50 different species they can complete their life cycle on. So just maples are their favorite. And in Ohio, that's where they're concentrating their survey efforts and their control efforts. And I forgot to mention that there's not really a control for Asian longhorn beetle because it does go so deep in the wood. It's fluid is not moving up down. Water's not going up and sugars are not going down. They're in the heartwood of the tree, which is not moving anything. So you could apply all the insecticide you want, but it's not getting into the deep wood of the tree. You saw how deep in those galleries were. So cutting and removing trees is the only effective treatment that we know of as of right now. That's how they got rid of it in Chicago and New York and all those other sites. They cut down all the trees. Not ideal. That's why we want to find it early so that the fewer trees we have to cut down, before it spreads and before it gets into northern Michigan. Really, that's what a lot of my work, like I said, hemlock woolly adelgid, balsam woolly adelgid, and Asian longhorn beetle. It's not that I don't want them here in southeast Michigan. I don't want them to get up in the UP and devastate our forests up there, our state and national forests up there. But in Metro Detroit is where we, bring in the most things from other countries, from other states, and we have the most people. So we're the most likely to find it around here. That's why I want to spread the word to you guys. We're going to see it first, and we want to keep it here. We want to find it early, keep it here, keep it under control, suppressed or eradicated. But thank you so much for your time. Did you have something, Kay?
No.
Thank you, Amy, entomologist and YouTube star. So thank you all for coming and hope to see you again soon.
I know.
Excuse me, members. If you need to pick up your appreciation gift that was presented in August, Connor has them upstairs at the reception desk. Thank you.
Yeah. But it's just that,
Oh, you.
Right, yeah.
Okay, say
Lecture.
she knows more about it. You don't say it though. You're being. You cannot interstate commerce. Yeah, there's like rights. You know, but. Jackson here or you can.
Right.
But.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. we should.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's my next step in your relationship?
Well. You know, for sure. Here's got to be.
I just wanted to know, what do they all, the adults die? Well, yes. Do they all?
No, the egg is well.
So if you see an adult like that, that's done through its birthing cycle. It's not gonna lay any more eggs.
I can even it's not playing. This is chickens.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
They, and generally, they'll spend the whole life support in one tree, one location, and they go on.
They're not very sliders, they like to pop up and down, so they're really like. You'll count like fingers all the time. This is. Yeah.
Oh, that shop, just really, his pocket, shop sacking, them on the tree, I was just. So even that main tree is not that, so, but they're like to shop. And I'm sure.
A bit of a change, that wasn't so bad. That's nice. But I shouldn't get into the process.
Thank you so much for doing.
You're welcome. I love it.
So, another decoration.
Sure.
We have here a representative of the 16th century. And it was to revive the English, really was to popular, and this is an English Tudor revival house. So here we have an entertainer, court jester, with, and juggernaut. So look at the tools of his trade. He's all picture here. First century law.
Yeah.
Charlie Chaplin. Yes. And we were there 17 years, and the two days. So there it is. Oh, there's one day before things. So, yeah, so, thank you, Sandy.
Should I stop share?
Yes, let's see, I think it was the second one, the Asian longhorn beetle that goes so deep. Does it affect sycamores at all?
I believe so.
Okay, then I got a branch I have to go check.
Okay.
Because we had one that just came off, it's like this big, beautiful tree, the top of it comes off.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's just very strange.
Yeah. As you're cutting it up or whatever you're doing, just look for the deep galleries.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You won't